Welcome to the Independent Advisors Podcast, where we dive into the world of stocks, tradable markets, and financial planning with Jessup Wealth Management's Chief Investment Officer, Mark McEvily, and CEO, Matt Jessup. You'll hear tips, tricks, and strategies to address your financial well-being, and most importantly, conveyed in a way that everyone can understand. Here are your hosts, Mark and Matt.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 358 of the Independent Advisors Podcast. On today's show, we're covering a few timely and important topics, including an update on the 4-year presidential cycle, spending variability in retirement, and 4 reasons why it pays to have a pre-tax or tax-deferred retirement account. Whether you're tuning in for market insights, planning tips, or just staying informed, there is something here for you. Second week in a row here of just solo Mark on this episode. Matt, I believe, will be back next week, but he has been out of the office traveling for work, so you are stuck with me at least for one more week. A lot to get to today on the show. So as always, we will review the month-to-date and year-to-date performance of the major market indices that investors track. This data is from Y-Charts and as of the market close on July 6th. S&P 500 index up 0.5% so far for the month of July and up 10.1% on the year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 1.4% for the month and 10.4% for the year. The NASDAQ Composite Index down 0.4% for the month and up 12.4% for the year. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index down 0.5% for the month of July and up 21.5% for the year. And the Vanguard All World X United States Index Fund up 0.7% for the month and up 14.6% for the year. 3-month Treasury rate at 3.87%, 2-year at 4.13%, and the 10-year at 4.48%.
Before we get into this week's show, listeners, if you've been enjoying the Independent Advisors Podcast, I'd encourage you to head to our website, JessupWealthManagement.com. I offer a 15-minute initial call where you can discuss your financial goals and see if JWM is a good fit for your needs. Scheduling is easy. Once you land at the JessupWealthManagement.com website, just click Schedule Initial Call and select a time that works best for you. There's a quick survey to fill out that will help guide the conversation and ensure your time is used efficiently. If you're ready to learn more, visit JessupWealthManagement.com and book your call today.
Moving on to big headlines and current events from this past week. Trump accounts officially launched in the past few days here. So there's been a lot of talk about these accounts over the past 6-7 months or so. Kind of confusing earlier in the year when people were getting their tax returns done. There was an option to elect to open a Trump account if you had a child that was born between 2025 and up until this point, but it didn't really seem like the government was ready to receive these applications yet. But just recently they released some more information on this, and I'm sure we're going to have one of our advisors back on the show, Taylor Ledbetter, to describe these in more detail. She actually came on earlier this year to talk about them. But again, there was still some details that hadn't been ironed out yet. So we will make sure that happens within the next month or two. So just again, a little bit of background on these accounts. They're officially known as 530A IRAs. They're tax-deferred investment accounts for children under the age of 18, managed by parents as the custodians, and they receive an initial $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury for eligible children born between 2025 and 2028. And then they convert into traditional or pre-tax IRAs when the child turns 18. So parents, family members, charities, and employers of the parents are actually allowed to make contributions to the kids' accounts up to a maximum amount of $5,000 in total contributions per year. So, I think this is a great thing to get kids started saving early. and it offers parents the opportunity to educate their children about investing and what it potentially could mean for them from a financial standpoint, which I think is a great thing. I'm always for financial education. I always talk about how in high school I wish we had more classes that were centered around financial services and tax planning and investing and that sort of thing. So I think this is a step in the right direction, and it's essentially free money that your kid can have and grow until they need it. So I think that it's something that's very interesting. But again, we don't have all of the details about this yet, and we'll have Taylor on, like I said, later this year to iron out some of those details. Okay, moving on to tweets, articles, and research from this week. The first thing I had was a post on X from Ryan Dietrich on July 1st. So Jenna will throw this chart up for YouTube viewers, but if you're just listening over audio, this will also be in our show notes. Ryan says, looking at all 16 quarters of the 4-year presidential cycle shows that Q2 of a midterm year is by far the worst for the S&P 500. Stocks just soared 15%. History is a guide, not gospel. And what you're going to see on this chart is each quarter during the 4-year presidential cycle. So we go, all the way from year 1 to year 4. And again, if you're a new listener to the show, Matt and I talk about the 4-year presidential cycle pretty heavily on this show. And there's pretty obvious trends on how the stock market performs during these different years. So you have the pre-election year, the election year, the midterm year, and then the post-election year. So again, looking at this chart, and as we've talked about before, year 2, or the midterm election year as we call it, is typically the weakest out of the entire 4-year cycle, and specifically Q2 and Q3 of the midterm year. So you'll see on this chart, going all the way back to 1950, Q2 of a midterm year is only positive about 47% of the time, and the average return for the S&P 500 is down about 3%. And then for Q3 of the midterm year, stocks are positive about 63% of the time for an average return of 0.2%, so pretty flat. So I think it's really important that we pay attention to the stock market when it performs differently than it has in the past. And with stocks being positive double digits in Q2 of a midterm year, I really think that's something that investors should be paying attention to. And to me, just by looking at this data, I think we might be in a little bit of a stronger market and economic environment than people think. So something that I thought was very interesting. We'll see how the rest of the year plays out. But again, if you're looking at this chart, again, Q4 tends to be really, really strong in a midterm year. So if this strength continues, the performance of stocks this year may surprise some people. Moving on to the next item, this was a chart from JP Morgan Asset Management's Guide to Retirement in 2026. They do a yearly slide deck that's called their Guide to Retirement presentation. And I really encourage everyone to go check out this presentation each year because it has a lot of really, really good information for people that are maybe just about to retire or they are already retired. So this first one that we're going to talk about, again, I have 2 of these slides. They're both going to be in our show notes, and Jenna will throw it up on the YouTube page if you want to check it out. It has to do with spending variability in retirement. So when you create a financial plan, you have to input a certain amount of money that you are going to spend throughout your retirement years. And that number is a static fixed amount. It can't be dynamic, at least in the financial planning softwares that I'm familiar with. But in reality, this chart from JP Morgan shows spending varies significantly from year to year. So looking deeper at the data, you have 6 in 10 new retirees experiencing spending changes of more than 10% during the first 3 years of retirement. And this actually continues through retirement, with 54% of those aged 75 to 80 experiencing spending volatility from year to year. So in retirement, expenses most likely are not going to be a static amount. You're going to travel more in some years than others. You'll have higher healthcare costs in some years than others. But this is very normal. And from my experience, it all evens out at the end, as retirees tend to spend less as they age. So the first 10 years of retirement, we see an uptick in travel spending, right? So people are retired. They don't have to worry about going into the office every single day. They can travel at their leisure. And then the next 10 years, travel kind of dies down a little bit. Expenses tend to normalize. And then the last 10 years, we see an uptick in healthcare spending. So again, people sometimes are surprised by the fact that their spending is not the same every single year, but I'm here to assure you that is actually very normal. So, when we create a financial plan, it's just a plan, right? It's always changing. It's constantly evolving. So we'll just have to update that every year with how you're spending your money in retirement. So I think it's something that people stress about a lot, that I don't think needs to be one of the top stressors in retirement, because like I said, again, that is a very normal occurrence for new retirees. The second chart from JP Morgan was centered around stock exposure in your investment portfolio and your withdrawal rates in retirement. So in the academic world, we've been taught that the older we get, the more conservative our investment portfolios have to be. And I don't think it's any secret that Matt and I don't necessarily agree with this old adage. And when I say more conservative, I mean reducing stock exposure and increasing bond and other fixed income exposures in your portfolio as you continue to age. The reality is some people won't be able to afford to get more conservative in their investment allocation as they go through retirement. So let's just say you retire at 60 years old. You could potentially have a retirement that lasts 30, 35, or even 40 years. And that's a pretty long time. And the majority of retirees will need their portfolios to continue to grow if they live longer. So this chart is showing the probability of retirees' portfolios lasting throughout retirement based on their withdrawal rate and their stock exposure. And as you can see, if you're looking at this on the YouTube video, the lower the withdrawal rate and the higher the stock exposure, the higher the probability of your money lasting throughout your entire retirement. At low withdrawal rates, so let's say between 1% and 3% of your portfolio, everything works. Whether you're in all cash, 80% stocks, you're sitting at approximately a 95 to 100% success rate in retirement. If you barely touch the money, the allocation in your investment portfolio doesn't really matter. But I would say that that's not the norm for retirees. And if we move a little bit higher on the withdrawal rate, what I would consider moderate, being 4 to 6% of the portfolio, allocation starts to actually matter a lot. And cash is very clearly the worst option. So an all-cash portfolio gives you just a 0 to 5% odds of success. But if you switch that to just a basic 60% stock, 40% bond portfolio, your success rate jumps to 65 to 70%. And I think that's the core lesson here, is sitting in cash to feel safe is actually one of the riskiest long-term moves once you're actually spending down the portfolio in retirement, because inflation and lack of growth just quietly wrecks the portfolio over a 35-year time horizon. And then last but not least, at a higher withdrawal rate, let's say 7 to 10%, nothing really saves you. Even if you're in an 80% stock, 20% bond portfolio, you're down in the single digits or low teens in terms of probability of success, and you're just withdrawing money faster than any reasonable portfolio can grow. So, one of the rules that we have here at Jessup Wealth Management is we tell our clients we're comfortable with them taking anywhere between 4 to 5% of their total portfolio value each and every year in the form of income to help them live the way they want to live in retirement. And that is alongside of their Social Security income or any other pension income that they're going to have in retirement. So again, we talk about focusing on things that you can control a lot on this podcast. And one of the things that you can control is your spending rate, right? We can't control what's going on in the markets or the economy or any geopolitical events, but we can control how much we're spending. And if we keep that withdrawal rate to 5% or lower, again, the probability of success jumps substantially compared to someone who's taking 7 to 10% of their portfolio each and every year. So again, the link to this JP Morgan Asset Management Guide to Retirement slide deck will be in our show notes. There's several really good slides that I could have chosen from to talk about today, but those are two that really caught my attention. We wanted to take a minute and tell you about a service we personally use and trust, LifeLock by Norton. With everything we do online these days, protecting your identity and personal information is more important than ever. That's why we've partnered with LifeLock, a leader in the identity theft protection industry. Their mission is to empower people to live their digital lives safely, offering tools to help protect you and your family from threats like identity theft, cybercrime, and fraud. They combine advanced technology with 24/7 support to keep your information safer in today's connected world. We use it ourselves, and we think it's a valuable tool for anyone looking to add an extra layer of protection. If you're interested in checking it out, you can use our special link to get a discounted rate. As a heads up, we do receive a percentage of compensation if you sign up using our link, but we partnered with LifeLock because we believe in what they offer. To learn more and get the deal, just head to jessupwealthmanagement.com/LifeLock. So last but not least, moving on to the financial planning topic of the week. This was from an article written by Jim Dahl on the White Coat Investor on June 9th, titled Great Reasons to Have a Tax-Deferred Account. So probably the single most popular question we get here at Jessup Wealth Management is, should I be saving into a traditional pre-tax IRA or 401k or a after-tax Roth IRA or 401k? And the answer is it really depends, right? But there's a lot of noise out there right now in personal financial media that insists everyone should be saving as much as possible into a Roth IRA. And I just don't believe that's always the case. And Jim does a really good job of outlining several reasons why people should be saving money into a traditional pre-tax retirement account. I just want to go over a few of those. So number one is having withdrawals at a lower tax rate. He says the main reason why you want a tax-deferred account is that an arbitrage is often available between your marginal tax rate at the time of contribution and your marginal tax rate at the time of withdrawal. If you can delay paying taxes at 35% and then pay those taxes later at 0%, 10%, 12%, or 22%, you're coming out way ahead. So what Jim's talking about here is, let's say you're in your peak earning years and you're in the 35% tax rate or tax bracket, Why would you want to contribute to a Roth and pay taxes at 35% now, where in retirement, most people are in lower tax brackets when they retire? So, again, most of the time, if you contribute pre-tax money during your peak earning years, you're deferring that tax until you're anywhere between 60 and 90 years old, where you're most likely going to be in a lower tax rate. So I think that's one of the big things that people miss is that by using a pre-tax retirement account, you're most likely going to be in a lower tax rate when you pull that money out in retirement. Second is optionality. He says one of the most beautiful things about having multiple types of retirement accounts is that you gain an immense amount of flexibility. Once you make a Roth contribution or do a Roth conversion, you've lost that flexibility. You've lost all kinds of options, the main one being the ability to do Roth conversions later. If tax rates fall, or even if you just happen to have a lower income for a year or two, you can't go back and undo Roth contributions or a previously done Roth conversion. If you decide you're not going to spend the money yourself and you're going to leave it to an heir in a lower tax bracket or to a charity, you no longer have that opportunity to save taxes. Tax-deferred accounts retain optionality that Roths and taxable accounts do not have. Third is charitable giving. So qualified charitable distributions, or QCDs, which we've discussed before several times on the show, let you give directly from a tax-deferred account with zero income tax ever paid by anyone. Not by you earning it, not on growth, not on withdrawal, not by the charity. QCDs are capped at $111,000 per year in 2026 and only available once you're in your 70s. So post OBBA, which is the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, itemized charitable deductions got less generous, which makes QCDs even more attractive. So a lot of the times, or things that come up with clients here at Jessup Wealth Management, is once people are in their 70s and they have a pre-tax retirement account, they have something called a required minimum distribution, or an RMD. And a lot of times as you age and as your portfolio value grows, that RMD starts to become a large dollar amount each and every year. And what we find is some of our clients don't need that money, but they're required to take it out according to the government. And one way around that is to make a qualified charitable distribution. So instead of you taking the money out that you don't need, you're going to pay tax on it, you can go ahead and just give your RMD amount up to $111,000 per year to a charity, and you no longer have the tax responsibility of that required minimum distribution. So it's a really nice way if you are charitably inclined and want to minimize your tax bill in retirement. Lastly, Jim talks about medical expenses. So medical costs above 7.5% of adjusted gross income, or AGI, are deductible, but only if you have taxable income to deduct them against. If everything's in Roth, you have no income to offset. Tax-deferred withdrawals in retirement, especially for nursing home and long-term care costs, can be shielded via this deduction. So again, when you contribute money to a pre-tax or tax-deferred retirement account, you're deferring those taxes until you take that money out of that IRA in retirement. Whereas a Roth, you're paying that tax up front. That money goes tax-free until you take it out in retirement, and obviously you don't pay any tax on it. So off the cuff, the Roth IRA sounds like the no-brainer winner, but I think Jim makes a pretty compelling case why it's so important to have these pre-tax or tax-deferred accounts. And another reason why I like to have a diversification of tax buckets in retirement is me, from an advisor's standpoint, I can help clients reduce their tax bill in retirement a lot more if they have pre-tax retirement accounts, Roth retirement accounts, and taxable brokerage or investment accounts. Just the way the tax code works, you're able to take money from different tax buckets to be able to pay the least amount of taxes as possible. So I would encourage people just to maybe think twice or dig a little deeper when they're deciding in their employer's 401k or just opening an individual retirement account. Give a little bit more weight to the benefits of a pre-tax retirement account. So that's going to do it for us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to episode 358 of the Independent Advisors podcast. Catch us next week for episode 359.
Thank you for listening to the Independent Advisors podcast. If you're interested in hearing more, hit the subscribe button so you can be notified every time a new episode gets released. Feel free to share with friends, family, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and X. Mark and Matt will continue to share beneficial information on these social media sites. Also, check out the podcast tab on their website. That's www.jessupwealthmanagement.com. There you'll find links to every episode of the Independent Advisors. Have questions or topics you want to discuss on the show? Send an email with the words questions and topics in the subject line to inquiries@jessupwealthmanagement.com. We'll talk about it right here on the podcast. Certain sections of this commentary may contain forward-looking statements based on reasonable expectations, estimates, projections, and assumptions. Forward-looking statements are not guarantees of future performance and involve certain risks and uncertainties which are difficult to predict. All indices are unmanaged and are not available for direct investment by the public. Past performance is not indicative of future results. This podcast is provided for general informational purposes only and does not constitute either tax, legal, or financial advice. Although we do go to great lengths to make sure our information is accurate and useful, we recommend you consult a tax preparer, professional tax advisor, financial advisor, or lawyer regarding your specific circumstances. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. No strategy can guarantee any objective or goal will be achieved.